Hello, all of you vaingloriously wonderful people. This video is going to be a bit different from my usual Astroneer content. First, I'm going to get into a bit of a rant because I'm disappointed in a fellow content creator's behavior, and I think the full story needs to be told. Second, I want to talk about my own opinions on the current state of Astroneer. So let's get into it. Warning, there may be some strong language ahead. Recently, a content creator who built their audience on Astroneer announced that they were finished with the game. In their video, they cited what they felt were numerous problems with Astroneer, Exo Outfitters, and more. Most of their opinions centered around the lack of new content in Astroneer to expand upon exploration and storytelling. And you know, they are certainly entitled to their opinion, and I don't even disagree with some of the points that this person made in their video. But there is a bit of a problem with their story explaining why they quit playing Astroneer. The real reason has little to do with the game itself. The real reason has little to do with the lack of new content. The real reason has little to do with cosmetics and Exo Outfitters. No, friends, none of that was the real reason this content creator quit playing Astroneer. So, what is the real reason then? Well, it's simple. They got their little feelings hurt. Let me tell you the story. 6 months ago, this content creator posted a missive in a Discord server aimed at Astroneer content creators. In the Discord server, at nearly 2 o'clock in the morning, they began to mention much of what they said in their recent video. They felt recent updates were underwhelming. They felt the game had lost its focus. They didn't care for the cosmetics or recycled events. They wanted more story and new planets to explore. And it would have been all well and good if they had stopped there. And to be honest, I agree with some of that criticism, and I've not held back when sharing my own opinions about the state of Astroneer, which we will talk more about in just a bit. In their video, those were the reasons they rattled off for quitting Astroneer. But in their Discord message, there was much more to the story. The content creator in question went on to mention how, over the prior few months, they felt it necessary to unfollow the majority of the System Era team on social media due to the sharing of personal, political, and social opinions. Now, keep in mind, the social media accounts this content creator was unfollowing were the personal accounts of various System Era employees, not any official System Era or Astroneer social media accounts. They even went so far as to say that they felt, quote, anyone associated with the gaming industry should not be promoting or pushing a personal, political, or social agenda. And to this I say, excuse me? How dare anyone try to suggest that anyone else censor themselves, especially a content creator who, in the grand scheme of things, is still a very small time, relatively unknown content creator. Sure, a couple 100,000 subs and a regular view count ranging from 10 to 30,000 is not insignificant, but this is by no means someone who is truly a big-time influencer. In my opinion, that is still a small channel. Sure, it's bigger than my channel, but it's still small when you consider the YouTube platform as a whole. And so we have this small fish in a big ocean having the balls to say that just because someone works in the gaming industry, they should censor themselves on their personal social media? I mean, what the actual fuck? Such a comment would be laughable if it weren't simultaneously offensive and dangerous. What other industries should we apply this to? Should everyone who works for Apple refrain from sharing any personal, social, or political opinions? What about anyone who works for United Airlines, or maybe people who work for General Motors? What is even more incredulous is that they claimed that the only reason any of these devs have followers on their personal social media is because of their affiliation with System Era. While that might be true, it'd be rather difficult to prove. Unless you were already following these people before they went to work for System Era and paid close attention to their following count before and after, you cannot make a statement like that. But there is even a bigger problem with this statement that people in the gaming industry should not share their personal, social, and political opinions on their social media. And that problem, friends, is the hypocrisy of the statement itself. This content creator went on to claim that they do not believe they should be using their own following to promote their own personal opinion. But in fact, they do just that. This person's own expression of a personal opinion is readily visible in their live streams and even led to a misunderstanding that we'll talk about in a moment. This content creator can try to claim that just hanging a flag behind them in the backdrop of a live stream isn't communicating their own personal opinion. But let's face it, that's bullshit. The very act of displaying a flag that promotes a controversial political or social opinion is, in and of itself, a form of speech, and it is just insulting to try to have someone say that it isn't. Sure, you might not say, "Hey, look at my flag, let me tell you what it means," every stream, but it's there, communicating the message all the same. And this content creator even went on to say that they only mentioned the flag when they're asked about it. But come on, you can't claim you're not engaging in a form of speech by hanging a flag behind you that is clearly visible, and then go on to use that as a justification for your opinion that no one in the games industry should share personal, political, or social opinions on their personal social media. That is, plain and simple, hypocrisy. As I mentioned a moment ago, the flag this content creator has displayed led to a misunderstanding. Someone from System Era visited this content creator's stream and asked what the flag was. Now, keep in mind, this person from System Era is not from the United States, so their understanding of the propaganda from various United States-centric social movements is limited. The question was totally innocent and harmless. It was literally, "Hey, what is that flag?" and nothing more. But this content creator made an assumption because they went all special snowflake and got their little feelings hurt over what System Era team members were posting on their social media. So instead of just trying to clarify with a simple, "What do you mean by that question?" this content creator just assumed the question was an attack on their personal opinions. And this, friends, is what the content creator says is their reason for dropping Astroneer. I quote, "Unfortunately, this has put me off playing Astroneer, and I know that it has likely put a target on my back." Seriously, oh my god, get the fuck over yourself. You jumped to an assumption and then assumed you become a target for that assumption. To add insult to injury of this missive, this content creator didn't even give anyone at System Era a chance to clarify anything or even engage in a discussion about it. Nope. They posted their message to Discord and then immediately left the server. You know what? Grow the fuck up. And while you're at it, learn a bit of common decency and professionalism. First of all, if you felt someone at System Era had attacked you for your personal opinions, you did not handle it properly. You should have sent that person a private message seeking to clarify what they meant by their question about your flag. Second, you got your feelings hurt and, in a very immature manner, posted your rant and a mic drop moment and then walked off, closing the door to communication. That's what 5-year-olds do. And finally, how dare you suggest that others cannot engage in discourse about their own personal political and social opinions on their personal social media when you yourself engage in that same speech all the fucking time? Seriously, the nerve and the hypocrisy. And then to go and make a video and say, "I left Astroneer because no content and cosmetics." Oh please, you left out half the story because you knew you were in the wrong back then and you still know it today. You were comfortable in publicly pointing out the flaws in the game, but you didn't have the balls to man up and admit to your own hurt feelings over people sharing opinions you find controversial or offensive. And so that's part of the reason for today's video. I felt someone needed to tell the whole story, and I felt it was about time people who think this content creator is a great guy learns the truth about his hypocrisy, the truth about his dangerous thoughts on censorship, and the truth about his immaturity and lack of professionalism. He may well be a great guy, but in this instance, he was an incredibly huge douche. It is possible to be both. I mean, I'm a really great guy, and yet I still have my douchebag moments. I could give him the benefit of the doubt, but I don't really know the guy. I never enjoyed his content, so I never watched enough to form an opinion. But when he did his mic drop rant, that painted the picture for me. You might be watching this and wonder who I'm talking about. Well, I don't name names. I will protect the privacy of everyone involved because that's the right thing to do. But I will share proof of their hypocrisy and lack of professionalism because they did not have the decency to send it via a DM and instead just put it out there for every member of that Discord server to see. Now, I'm sure a lot of you know exactly who I'm talking about, but let me say this. I do not want to see their name in the comments. In fact, I'll delete any comment that even takes a guess. I'm only here to tell the full story of why that content creator isn't playing Astroneer. I'm not here to name names. games. I know this video has been a bit of a rant, and I know it might seem controversial, but this is something that has been irritating me for 6 months. Seeing near universal praise for this content creator as being a great guy when that hasn't always been the case. In this case, they were actually kind of a butthurt douchebag. But the final straw was their recent videos say they're not playing Astroneer anymore because of their perceived flaws in the game, failing to mention their own incorrect assumptions, hypocrisy, and hurt feelings. I had to tell the rest of the story, and now that I have it off my chest, we'll all move on and eventually it'll all blow over. So let's move on from ranting about a fellow content creator and talk about Astroneer. I'm not going to take the time to respond to that other video point for point because I feel somebody else has already done a great job of that. So instead, I want to talk about my own thoughts about the current state of Astroneer. And let's begin here. My Steam review that I recently updated. I think Astroneer is a game everyone should buy and play. It is a fantastic little spaceman sandbox full of exploration, wonders, base building, and more. With nearly 2,000 hours put into the game, I am still finding new things to do. On top of that, I have nothing but love for the entire team at Systemera. I have been truly amazed by not only their talent in creating this game I love so much, but their willingness to engage with their community in a way that is pretty much unprecedented in the gaming industry. So as I begin to talk about how I feel about the current state of Astroneer, don't forget, I love the game and I love the devs behind it. What I don't love are some of the changes that have come about. I often hear Systemera refer to the data they collect about how people are playing the game and that many changes are made to keep people playing for longer. And I totally get that. The longer they play, the more likely they are to drop a few bucks on cosmetics or merch, meaning Systemera has the funds to keep paying people to create even more new stuff for the game. But I feel they've gone about it the wrong way. I still feel that changes to the power consumers and producers is way out of balance. Again, this is my personal opinion, and I've seen your comments that disagree with me on this. And I welcome those comments, by the way. Part of the beauty of Astroneer is that so many different people can experience it in so many different ways. But to me, it feels as though the changes to the power system left it unbalanced in such a way as I become limited in how I can approach the game. Previously, I could come up with dozens of different ways to solve any given problem with Astroneer. But the changes to power consumers and producers have placed unnecessary restrictions on that freedom to solve problems creatively. And this makes me sad because one of the things that made me fall in love with Astroneer in the first place was how much of an unlimited sandbox it was and mostly still is. So when I feel like limits are being placed on how can I approach something, it's less fun and I wind up playing less. But beyond power balancing issues, I think the exochip requirement to certain recipes was a bad call. Now, let me pause here and say that I also think Systemera has heard this feedback, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see an update that eases the pain of exochips a bit. But here's my complaint with exochips as they stand today. In a typical playthrough for me, I would need around 3 dozen exochips. In the big picture, there are several resources that I'm going to need a lot more of than exochips. But exochips aren't as simple as digging up a resource or plopping down an auto extractor to get them. Instead, they're a barrier to my progress. I have to stop what I'm doing, make or find dynamite, and then go out, blow up several dozen exocaches, and only then can I continue what I'd like to be doing. And I don't even like blowing stuff up in the first place. Dynamite leaves ugly craters in its wake that I'd rather not have to look at. My playstyle on Astroneer is broken up into largely 3 phases. The first is initial base building, and I absolutely love this stage of the game. I love rushing to get a tractor made so I can head out and comb through debris to find power producers to get a full base up and running as quickly as possible. The second stage is for stockpiling research bytes and resources that I'll need to get to the third stage. While I don't hate it, I don't really enjoy this stage of the game much either. It's a bit mundane, to be honest. Go to Calidar, get as much wolframite as I can, then go to Glacio, open up as many research aids as I can, then go back to Glacio to get hematite and titanite. It all feels like a bit of a chore, but I have enough hours in the game that I can usually get through this stage really quick. And then the third stage of the game is what I enjoy the most. doing whatever my little heart desires. Maybe I want to build some crazy over-the-top automation on every planet. Or maybe I want to try to see if I can get round-the-clock power from only solar without building solar arrays across the equator. Or maybe I want to find out if I can activate all 6 gateways on a planet simultaneously. Or maybe I just want to activate gateways in a normal way and then go say hi to the Wanderer. It doesn't really matter what I'm doing, but I always love doing it. But now, the stage I don't really enjoy has, at least what it feels like to me, this artificial barrier to me getting to the part of the game I love. Not only do I have to go to Calidor and make multiple trips to Glacio, but now I'm setting up an atmospheric condenser to get sulfur and then making explosive powders so I can make a bunch of dynamite. Then I have to take the dynamite and go back out and find exocaches, blow them up, and collect exochips. And this phase is just not fun. It's mundane. It's a chore. It's boring. And that's why I have a problem with it. It feels like it was put there just to keep me in that middle game longer. I don't want to spend more time there. Nor do I really want to bother with making the stuff from the mid-game like medium rovers and medium shuttles. To me, both of those are a waste of my time and resources. Why on earth am I going to spend my bytes and resources on inferior transportation? I haven't used the medium rover since my very first playthrough of Astroneer, back when I didn't know any better. And I'm pretty sure that's also the last time I used the medium shuttle as well. I don't want them, and I don't want to be stuck in the part of the game that wants me to use them. During last Friday's live stream, I started a new save hoping I'd also find enough dynamite during the first stage of the game so that I could have 8 to 12 exochips before I even left Silva. I thought, hey, that would make the system balanced. I wound up with 2. That was a huge disappointment. And to be honest, until I recorded the footage for this and the Astroneer Quick Bite short video, I haven't touched Astroneer since that live stream. I simply dread what lays ahead of me, blocking my progress on the part of the game that I actually enjoy. And that worries me a lot. Why does it worry me? Because if I just go back to my saves where I'm already in that final stage that I enjoy, I am going to eventually run out of things to do. And if that doesn't happen, the save is going to get so big that the game's performance will start to struggle and it won't be enjoyable. And since I'm now reluctant to start any new saves, since I know that the stage I find boring is even longer, I'm worried this means I'll wind up playing Astroneer less. And to be honest, that makes me kind of sad. I love Astroneer. I don't want to stop playing, but I also don't want to keep playing if that means I have to endure the parts of it that I find monotonous, especially when it feels like an arbitrary roadblock has been placed to keep me there longer. Before I wrap it up, I want to address one general idea I've seen surface throughout several comments and in my Twitch chat. Some people have suggested that I'm just looking at this whole exochips thing wrong. Exochips are meant to get us back out, away from our bases, exploring the planets again. And well, that's awesome. In my first several playthroughs of Astroneer, I loved exploring. I'd spend hours wandering about caves or mountains just to see what I could see. I was constantly stumbling upon things that were new and interesting and exciting. But once you've played through half a dozen times, you begin to realize that while the planets of each save are procedurally generated, there is a limit to what can be generated and where. So if you've seen 10 Silvas, you've seen them all. And slowly, over time, that sense of awe and wonder that came through discovery and exploration wore off. And because of that, I stopped enjoying the exploration side of the game. And to be honest, I don't really find keeping my eyes fixed on the compass in hopes of seeing an exocache nav point pop up to really fit into the description of exploration anyway. It's not as if there's any real sense of discovery to be made here. It's an exocache, a gray box with some blinky lights that I need to blow up to get to a thing inside of it. Like many Astroneer players, I would love to see new planets. Actually, scratch that. I want an entirely new solar system. When I step through the rift, I want a mission to appear telling me to pack what I can into my large shuttle and launch into my next adventure. And I want to land in an entirely new solar system with entirely new planets that have entirely new balance of resources and hazards and sights to see and things to discover. But I also know that bringing about what I want requires a significant time investment and an incredibly long testing period. And it's probably not something that, at this stage in their existence, Systemera is able to devote the resources to. But I do yearn for that part of Astroneer to return for me. I would love nothing more to jump into a buggy or strap on a jetpack and go exploring for exploring's sake. I just don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. I want to come full circle to what I said at the beginning of this section of the video. I love Astroneer and I love Systemera. I have full faith in the devs to hear our feedback, weigh it carefully, and see how or even if they can incorporate that feedback within their vision for the game. They have made missteps before, but they've always found a way to sort those out. And I'm sure that is exactly what is going to happen again. Sure, I might not get the exact power changes I think the game desperately needs, and I may not be 100% satisfied with how they reconcile this whole exochips mess, but I know that, beyond a shadow of a doubt, they will come up with a solution. So with that, until next time, I'm Brandon, reminding you to stay vainglorious.